Alright guys, today is another great day for fans of Chris Buckle's album reviews because guess what? I've deigned to come back down the mountain and deliver another album review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Bruce Springsteen's 7th studio album, Born in the USA, from 1984. This is Bruce Springsteen's most popular album, and many of his most popular songs are on here. Musically, it is pretty similar to his earlier works. The E Street Band has returned after being absent in Nebraska, and the main new addition is that lots of 80s synth has been thrown into the mix. Now, I've already covered Springsteen's previous albums, so there's not too much backstory I really need to cover here at the start of the video before going on to the songs. Kicking off the album is the title track, Born in the USA. I think this song is pretty well known to everybody, at least if you live in the United States like I do. It's a song that sets the stage for this whole album wonderfully, both musically and lyrically. The song's main riff is synth-based, but it still sounds unmistakably Springsteen. Bruce really just took his sound from the river and drizzled some sweet, sexy 80s synth on top. This song is often misunderstood as a pro-America song, something which has led to it being widely beloved amongst conservative circles in America. Huh? That's what happens when you only listen to the lyrics, kids. See, the song is very lyrically loaded, but in the other direction. The song follows the life of the narrator as he goes from hardship to hardship. The reason? The man was born in the USA. He goes from a hard childhood straight into being drafted into the Vietnam War, and when he comes back, he is abandoned by his country despite his military service. In the end, he realizes his life is essentially a dead end. And all because he was born in the USA. See, Springsteen puts the blame on America. The American government waged a pointless war in Vietnam that got the narrator's friends killed. The American government then abandoned those who made it back, and made no effort to care for them after the war. This song doesn't idolize America at all. It doesn't idolize the American way of life, it lambasts America's greatest sins. Sure, the chorus is born in the USA, but it isn't a statement of pride, it's more of a, well, I was born in the USA, look where that got me, type of statement. An often misunderstood song, but a great way to start off the album. The next track, Cover Me, is a simpler song, but far from lightweight. Its backing is fairly hard, and it does have a good beat to it. It's probably the most danceable Springsteen song, at least off the top of my head. Tonally, it's similar to I'm a Walker from The River. Cover Me is a come-on song with a playful, secret agent twist. There's also an undertone of looking for a love that will last hardship even as times get tougher in life. Sure, it isn't really one of the boss's deeper songs, but it more than earns its status as one of his bigger hits. Darlington County is a song about, well, honestly, I don't even really know. It's just about two guys flirting with every woman they come across, and one of them gets arrested at the end for something, but the main guy doesn't, I guess. Well, sounds like really every other Springsteen song out there. And the chorus, it's like, shala. It's not very good either. It gets kind of grating after a while. I personally don't find this song to be very good. I think it's quite forgettable. I just really don't see the point of it. It feels like a throwaway. Much like the earlier Cover Me, Walking on the Highway also has a good groove to it. It's meant to sound like a song a walker is singing as he's walking on the highway. Juxtaposed with the upbeat walking song is, however, much darker meaning. It is a song about a man going after a girl and gets rightfully put in jail for it. The real novelty of the song is how at the end the man goes from walking on the highway as a paid job to walking on the highway as a part of forced prison labor. In that sense, the song is a bit of a one-trick pony. It's designed to be a clever little gag on first listen, but it's completely hollow on repeat spins. It's just a novelty song, and I don't really think we really needed it here. I think we could have done without it. It should have been a B-side or something. Downbound Train is another Springsteen song about a working man facing hard times in an uncaring city. Huh, that sounds familiar. Anyways, he lost his job and is stuck with a worse one. His wife leaves him and he is understandably, very understandably sad about this. Dude's going insane. It's sad boy summer for real. It would honestly be a comical song, except for the fact that Springsteen's forte is this type of song, and he does know how to make it work, to his credit. And musically, it's got a good guitar sound and some ambient synth. It sounds like a solid Springsteen track, but it's far from the grooviest track on the album, let's be honest. Still, I do like it. Now, for this next song, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never really been a big fan of I'm on Fire. I know it's one of Springsteen's most popular songs, and that was a big hit. I've just never really understood the appeal. I mean, yeah, it's a song about adultery, and maybe since I don't do that, I mean, maybe that's probably the reason why it never really landed with me. I mean, I can't really relate there, but I don't think that's all there really is to it. It's just, musically, I just find it dull, boring. It's got a good driving beat, but the rest of it's pretty simple. I mean, Springsteen's vocal is good, but it's not anything he hasn't done better on a previous song. The ambient synth is really just take it or leave it. I mean, it's not really a big star right here. As all Springsteen's slower ballads go, this isn't one of his better ones, although I suppose it's better than some of his early ones. It's just kind of dull. It's easily, I think, the boss's most overrated song. No Surrender is a song about childhood friendship with another boy. The ending of the song also carries the theme of life getting duller as you get older, which is a theme that's very common in Bruce Springsteen's songs. Musically, it's pretty upbeat, and as such, I do like it more than most of the slower songs, but it really doesn't do anything different from Springsteen's other songs in this style. It's a solid album track, but not a standout. Bobby Jean delivers on this theme better. This is a nostalgic song about a good time shared with a friend who's now gone. What happened to the friend is rather unclear. I think the most obvious reading is that the friend has simply moved away without any way of being reached. However, the song could also be interpreted as the friend having died. This lends the song a great deal of applicability, and I think either reading could be correct in a way, depending on what you can get out of the song. It's also well delivered, and an up-tempo song, which I quite like. It's contemplative without being slow. It's great. I'm Going Down is another song with a theme of things turning sour as time goes on. In this case, it's about two people falling out of love as their romance loses its spark. Hashtag sad boy summer's over, guys. It's now hashtag sad man summer. The song is juxtaposed by an upbeat rockabilly style, and of course a great sax solo from Clarence. It's sort of like a disguised version of The River in that way. I don't like I'm Going Down quite as much, quite as much as The River, but it's still a great track. Glory Days is another song that follows up on the theme of the passage of time. It's a song about looking back on one's youth and comparing the past to one's current circumstance. The song ends with a realization that the glory days in question never really were worth anything, as they leave you with nothing more than boring stories of glory days. Musically, it's one of the best tracks on the album. From the organ to Steven Van Zant's back and forth with the bass, this song knocks it out of the park. I'd argue that the song's upbeat sound doesn't actually stand in contrast with the lyrics. The lyrics come to the conclusion that the glory days weren't really great, and sure, that sounds downbeat on the face of it, but also carries an implication that you shouldn't spend the rest of your life just sitting around moping about not being young anymore. I would argue that the song actually has a life-affirming message about seizing the moment, no matter what age you are, and moving on in life. Thus, I think an upbeat sound is quite appropriate, actually. The next track, Dancing in the Dark, is about two things. Wardle's Block, which is understandable considering how many great songs Springsteen had already given us here. And of course, sex. Makes sense, really. The singer feels like he needs some passion and excitement in his life to rekindle his creativity. This song has a great set of lyrics, some of the best ever penned by the boss. The chorus is very memorable and good for singing along to as well. Springsteen also gives us a great vocal performance, and the song really flows together well. And yes, Dancing in the Dark is very synthy. There's just so much synth on this track, more so than Born in the USA even. But the synth on Dancing in the Dark is a softer, more pleasing variety. That's not taking anything away from the song, in fact it's a major strength of it. The synth is a very effective opening hook that helps the song get ingrained in your brain. It also matches the kind of dreary yawning of the song quite well. The best musical element of the song, however, comes in at the very end. Clarence Clemens is always a highlight of any record he is on, and here he gives one of his best sax solos. Solo's very steamy. I don't think anyone in the history of popular music has a solo sounded more explicit. I mean, they don't really call him Clarence Sex Clemens or nothing. Or, well, maybe they do. I mean, maybe I'm the only one who calls him that. I don't know if anyone else does, but I mean, he more than earns that title here on this song. In a way, the sax solo serves as a happy sort of ending, a climax, if you will, to the song. It sort of sounds like Springsteen got the action he was looking for. It's cathartic in a way, at least for him. I mean, maybe for us as well. It's only the at the end of the song, you know? My Hometown is a song about a man who has lived his whole life in one town. When he was a child, his father would always make a big deal about the town being his hometown. Now, the town is in decline, and the single has a son of his own. As he prepares to leave the town, he looks back on his life there and tells his son that the town is his hometown too. This song is similar to Atlantic City from Springsteen's previous album, Nebraska. What really makes My Hometown stand out, however, is the added theme about fatherhood. Although the whole family is moving out, the single son will be left with an early memory of living in his father's hometown during its decline. Musically, it's not really that interesting, other than Springsteen's top-notch vocal, of course. Lyrically, it's one of Springsteen's most poignant and moving songs. It also follows up on many of the other songs' themes about the passage of time and decline of things, and as such, it serves as a pretty much perfect album closer. Alright, that's it for the song-by-song breakdown. So before I go on to my final thoughts on the album, let's look at my final scores for the songs. I give Born in the USA a 10 out of 10, Cover Me an 8 out of 10, Darlington County a 4 out of 10, Walking on the Highway a 4 out of 10, Downbound Train a 7 out of 10, I'm on Fire a 6 out of 10, No Surrender a 6 out of 10, Bobby Jean a 9 out of 10, I'm Going Down a 7 out of 10, Glory Days an 8 out of 10, Dancing in the Dark a 10 out of 10, and My Hometown a 9 out of 10. So yeah, this album is uneven. It's true that Springsteen hasn't been the most consistent artist on his other albums either, but Born in the USA is perhaps his most major offender so far, at least for a single LP. Side 1 of the album feels rather weak. Born in the USA and Cover Me are great, of course, but Darlington County, Walking on the Highway are both duds, and Downbound Train is good but not great, and, well, I'm on Fire is Springsteen's most overrated song, as I said earlier. Side 2 ups the ante a bit, though. Other than No Surrender, all the other tracks are killer. Despite some rough patches, however, I do see a pretty cohesive album here. When I look at it, I see an album that explores the themes of the passage of time. Well, it's Springsteen's bet, of course. Sure, Springsteen has already treaded this ground time and time before, but it's a topic he's great at covering. Born in the USA and My Hometown follow their characters' whole life stories up to the present. Bobby Jean and No Surrender are about childhood friendships. Downbound Train and I'm Going Down are about life and love going sour as time goes on. Glory Days is probably the most blatant exploration of this theme, and along with My Hometown, it's really the beating heart of the album. Dancing in the Dark is less connected to the theme, but even it has a theme of a spark going out and needing to be rekindled. Cover Me has a similar theme of needing to find a love that can last through the increasingly worse times to come. The only songs that don't really fit this theme are I'm on Fire, Darlington County, and Walking on the Highway. As such, I suppose it's really no surprise those were among the weakest songs of the album. So where does Born in the USA land in the end? It doesn't stack up as one of my favourite Springsteen albums, but it's an amazing effort by almost any other standard. All the songs are fairly up-tempo, which is refreshing after Nebraska, and the songs here are no less poignant either. Some of the Boss's best songs are on here too, and that more than makes up for the rough patches, at least in my view. As such, I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10. It's got several duds, enough to keep it away from a 9, but it's still a great album due to its deep themes and incredibly high highs. Alright, now, I do, as always, want to look at the sleeve. I actually realized just now that I forgot to turn this back over because the front and the back are pretty much the same, as you can see. Except this has the track listing and like a barcode. But this album does have a printed liner, which is always nice. There it is. You got pictures of the band and stuff on this side, and then on the other side, you got Springsteen standing there up against a blue background, and also some red stars. That's, I guess, I don't know, it kind of looks like a blue screen. I don't know if it was a blue screen, but looks kind of like a blue screen. Nice picture of him, though. It does kind of match the red and white of the cover, you know, it's blue, the liner. It's a nice shade of blue. Of course, the cover does have blue on his pants. As for the album cover itself, well, it's a butt. Whoa. I mean, it's only sold like hotcakes in the record store, people suddenly wanted that cake, and they suddenly got it too. And does it fit with the album Seems That Well? Probably not. I know there was a minor controversy where people thought that this was supposed to be him, like, peeing on the American flag. Although, according to him, it wasn't. I just don't really understand what was up with the composition of this. I mean, I guess the jeans were supposed to represent, like, the walking man or something, but... And also the butt's supposed to represent, like, Springsteen's sex appeal. This is kind of a cheap novelty cover. Like, even though the songs were generally pretty good, this cover has never really been my favorite. It just seems like low-hanging fruit, you know? Low-hanging something. And it sold, I guess, so it worked, I guess, but not my favorite. And that's about it, really, for my thoughts on The Slave. Before I go, I do want to, again, encourage you to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Please comment also if you can, that does help me out a lot. And if you like this style of album review, please go check out my Patreon. I'm taking requests, so if you want to see me review your favorite album, or just want to support me in some way, you should check it out. I'll have a link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.